everybody, I'm Alyssa from Untitled Astrology, and today we're going to talk about the astrology of September 7th through 13th. We have a lot to talk about this week. We start out the week on Sunday with a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, and then we end the week with a Mercury Cazimi on Saturday in the sign of Virgo. We have a few things that happen in between there, so lots to talk about that we're going to get into. Before we do, I want to give you a reminder to like, follow, subscribe, so that way you don't miss anything we have going on here. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel here, if you haven't already, you won't miss the weekly videos like this one that comes out Saturday mornings, nor will you miss the live meditations that we have Sunday nights, 8:30 p.m. That's a live astrologically guided meditation to lead you into your week. If you follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, that's where you will see posts, links, announcements, and anything like that that may be coming forward. So like, follow, subscribe on all of the places so that way we can connect on all of the things. I do want to mention that there is not a live meditation this Sunday, September 7th. I will not be in town Sunday evening, but we will reconvene next week, September 14th. So yeah, those announcements, they go to social media. So Facebook, Instagram are the places that you will see those type of announcements. So that's part of the benefit of finding us and connecting with us there. And then subscribe here on the channel so that way you don't miss any of the weekly videos. And yeah, I want to extend an invitation to our live meditations Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's an astrologically guided meditation where first we talk about some of the astrology of the week and then we meditate on it. That comes out after the weekly video Saturday, the meditation that the intention that comes out Friday. That is astrologically guided, that feeds into the astrology of the week and directly related to the meditation that we do Sunday, and something you can sit with while you listen to the weekly video on Saturday. So yeah, like, follow, subscribe, all the places so we can stay connected, and thank you for giving me a moment to go ahead and say all of those things. Let's go ahead and get into the astrology of the week. We start out the week Sunday, September 7th with the lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. This is a full moon in the sign of Pisces. Lunar eclipses are full moons. Solar eclipses are new moons. So a little reminder about that. Full moons in general are culmination points, right? It's the height or the culmination of that lunar cycle. The lunar cycle begins with the new moon. The moon is dark and then it slowly starts to begin to increase its light. And then when we get to the full moon, it's at its full illumination. It's as bright as it gets. And then just as quickly as it reaches that culmination, reaches that peak brightness, that light slowly starts to fade. We make our way towards the third quarter moon, back towards the dark moon, and then we roll into a new cycle that will start with the new moon. That happens every month. A couple times a year, we get lunar and solar eclipses where the new moons and the full moons fall within a certain proximity of the lunar nodes that we have. Those are currently in Pisces and Virgo, so that's where our eclipses are happening here. It's interesting to note that this set of eclipses, so we have the full moon, and then in a couple weeks we're going to have a new moon in the sign, or a solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. This is the first set that we've had that has been completely within that Virgo-Pisces axis. We've had other ones that have have included like the Aries solar eclipses and whatnot. So this one focuses very much so on the Pisces Virgo axis, and there's a huge focus on these two houses and these two signs all throughout the week that we're going to talk about here. So you have this culmination of energy sitting with the North Node in the sign of Pisces. If I go ahead and put the chart up, you will be able to see that. So full moon in the sign of Pisces, 15 degrees, 22 minutes. And I see this as, again, the height of energy and a culmination point. So feelings of things coming together or reaching a finality point or a height, reaching their full expression, okay? When I say a finality point, I'm thinking about like, okay, we've reached the top. Which way are we going to go once we get here? Are we going to go left or are we going to go right? Are we going to continue with whatever the thing that has been created and is in view? Are we going to take it to the next level? Or are we going to start to discard it because it's no longer serving us, and then we're going to move on to something else within the next lunar cycle? Kind of like that. So a coming together or a height moment. So a completion, but not necessarily meaning that it's done. Could mean that it's done or that it's on its way out. When I think about this complete but not done, I think about the number 7 and the number 10 in tarot. The number 7 to me can represent, amongst other things, a complete manifestation or a complete expression of something. It's a completion of things coming together into their fullness. The 10 to me is more of a completion of finality, of moving on to something else or transforming into something else, moving on. It's the last number in the minor arcana before we move to the court cards, right? 7 still has the 8, 9, and the 10 in front of it. I think of the 7 as the complete manifestation of like, thinking of like your whole body coming together, right? Like all of the pieces working, coming together. And then the 10 to me is more like the immortalization of your soul, right? It's that part of you that lives on forever, that comes maybe at the end of your life, you come into this completion or the end of anything that's ending, and it's okay, it has served its purpose. We have gained the fruits of the labor or whatnot, and now we're gonna move on to a higher level. Or something has served its purpose and we're gonna move on to something totally different. So I see this more as like the 7 rather than the 10. Complete manifestation versus that like immortalization coming through here. So that height of completion. And it's sitting with the North Node. It's sitting with Rahu, who increases, right? The North Node, very generally and very broadly, we can think of something that decreases, and the North Node is something that increases. Maybe the South Node as something that we are moving away from, or something that maybe we're trying to release. The North Node is something that appeals to us, something that pulls us forward. Doesn't always mean that you are supposed to move away from the South Node and move towards the North Node. I think a balance where you can find yourself in the middle and it's more like a tide is probably a little bit more along the, I don't know, the most beneficial line for the most part here. So a pull towards the Pisces house in our chart, as well as those Pisces themes that are universal for all of us. The sun is still in the sign of Virgo, while the moon is in the sign of Pisces here for the full moon, right? So across this axis, I think a lot about service. I think a lot about understanding, and I think a lot about care. I think about emotional versus rational understanding, and those themes could be playing out for some of us. There's reflection in the sign of Pisces. I think trust is a big theme both across Pisces and Virgo signs. So this could be a moment to be empathetic towards ourselves and towards others. Saturn has moved back into the sign of Pisces. We talked about that in last week's video. You can see that here in the chart that it's at 29 degrees of Pisces. So that deep emotional feeling or that deep connection has pulled back in that maybe we have felt over the last couple of years. It also makes me feel that these eclipses could be bringing forward some sort of unfinished business. So we had Saturn moving through the sign of Pisces. It ingressed in 2023, and then earlier this year it moved into the sign of Aries. So things that maybe had been building through that period of Saturn in the sign of Pisces, we're revisiting that. So there's something that needs to be looked at again, there's something that still needs to be contemplated, or something that needs to be finished up there. And then it coming through just before the eclipse is coming through, it's telling me that these eclipses have something to do with Saturnine figures in the sign of Pisces, okay? So the structures, the foundations, those frameworks of our lives, but within emotional connections, within a watery aspect of Jupiter. So within that reflection moment, it's coming back in. So there can be very, very deep contemplation, and there can be very deep emotional connection. Emotional connection that either romanticizes us or maybe leaves us in maybe a little bit of a state of sadness, a little bit of melancholy that could be there. So there could definitely be some very intense emotions that coming through, and maybe things that we're processing, maybe things that had come up before and now they're like right there in our face, so that way we can't, it's the time to deal with this thing and handle this thing. Or it could be things that are coming up from the past that we thought we had left in the past, and now they're coming back around here. So a moment to be empathetic with all of these emotions going on is very, very possible. It could be an opportunity to take it all in and trust our intuition. There is often a very intuitive and psychically connected aspect where Pisces is within our chart, and within strong strong, pure Pisces energy. And that comes from that connection with Jupiter, the ruling planet of Pisces. So in a moment to take it all in, Pisces can be very much an energetic sponge, and then trust the intuition. Feel into it. Feel into what is there. Before Neptune was discovered and had the spiritual significations that it has today, from my understanding, Saturn was the mystical planet. Saturn was the planet that represented that edge and that boundary, which makes sense because Saturn is the farthest, outest most of the visible planets, of the traditional planets. So sitting on that boundary edge between reality and whatever else is out there, between the material world and the non-material world, kind of like that. So Saturn coming back into Pisces feels like it could be giving a little bit of that feel as well here. The new moon that we had started in early Virgo, so very much rooted in process and perhaps maybe breaking away from that or finding some sort of opening. This lunar cycle that started with the new moon in early Virgo started with a square to Uranus. So there may be something about something breaking open, something breaking throughout this lunar cycle, and then the lunar eclipse coming through could really push us into that, or just really have us diving deep within that, thinking about diving deep into the ocean of whatever has been cracking open, whatever has been opening for you, whatever the egg is that is cracking here. So, you know, like what has been opening? What doorway do you see leading to another? It doesn't always have to be endings. It could be the beginning of a next chapter too. So thinking of like that 7 and that 10, the 10 leads into the court cards. So, you know, even though that things are coming to a culmination, there's a next level, or there's something else. There's another chapter coming after it. You could also look back to August of 2007. That is the last time that we had the North Node in the sign of Pisces and we were getting eclipses. So look back to 2007 and see what parallels or similarities you can see to your life now. What was going on then? What is going on now? And where do you see, maybe not that you're experiencing the same thing, because none of us are, you know, the exact same person that we were then, but see the similarities, see what was shifting and what was changing in that life for you, or that period of life for you, and what is shifting and changing now, and see where you can kind of reflect on that a little bit. That's a good way to assess eclipses, is by looking back at them. So opportunities to really get clear on what is falling away, okay? What is coming to the height here, or what is ready to be taken to the next level. Connecting to otherworldly energies, that's that intuitive connection that we have, all of us, connected to our emotional bodies. You know, sit with what really serves you well and move with the emotional connection and feeling. If it doesn't feel like it's alive, and if it doesn't feel like there's an emotional connection, then is there really a connection there at all, right? Kind of like that. Deep contemplation, deep feeling, deep thinking here. Trusting our intuition and creating something long-term. Like I said, Saturn is back into the sign of Pisces, so things that could be coming up here could be really solid. They could be foundations that are hard to rock, but once they do, maybe you create a new foundation that's even stronger than the one that was there before. Some obstacles could be moving too quickly without thinking things through, or things not quite being as they appear. Pisces isn't always the most clear. It can be foggy. So leaning too far into drastic behavior could, like, maybe we don't see exactly what is going on clearly, or we're feeling into it, we're acting out of our emotions rather than rationally. That could be a tension here across the Pisces Virgo axis for sure. And remember that opening square in the opening of this lunar cycle. So it could have us just moving without thinking necessarily about the process. So if we're breaking through from something, just make sure we're thinking things through well. Also, eclipses with the North Node really kind of pull at us, and they really feel like, okay, I need to go do this thing, and I need to go do this thing right now. So just to make sure we are thinking things through. There could be high emotional reactions and maybe some stress. So remember to take a deep breath before acting into anything. So yeah, happy lunar eclipse days to all of you. So that's what we have on Sunday. If we go ahead and move forward here through the week, we're going to go ahead and move along. We have a couple days of following the moon around. Monday, the moon will start in the sign of Pisces, and then it'll move into the sign of Aries. That Aries moon will take us right into Tuesday. Tuesday, the moon will be in the sign of Aries. Oops, sorry. There we go. Tuesday, the moon will be in the sign of Aries all day, and that Aries moon will take us right into Wednesday, September 10th. The moon will move into the sign of Taurus. It will make a couple aspects, and we have the sun conjoining the south node here. So when the moon is just a couple degrees away from the north node during the lunar eclipse, the sun is just a couple degrees away from the south node. So we have the south node, and then we actually have Mercury coming across the south node just after the sun does. So if the north node is something that pulls us forward, something that attaches our eye and gives us this insatiable appetite that we just want more, and there's vast expansion, whether it's positive or negative. There could be illusions of grandeur with the north node where something seems shiny and bright, we want to move to it. Maybe it feels like it in Pisces, it feels very caring and very nurturing. Maybe it feels very understanding. Maybe it's a emotional well that we find ourselves falling down into, and then it's hard to pull ourselves out, something like that. Ketu, the south node, rather than something looking to attach ourselves to, it's the place of detachment. It's the place of delusion versus illusion. It can be brave, but it also can be mindless, where the north node in some ways feels like it can be all wrapped up in the head here. So that's where I think about the high emotional pressures coming through here. So if we are trying to detach in the sign at the south node when we are interacting with Ketu, and if the sun represents our soul and our purpose and, you know, on some levels our ego, and it's an illuminating spotlight, I'm wondering this week, what is being illuminated that is ready to let go? What is being released, and where is the detachment? Hopefully it's not that we're detaching from our purpose. Hopefully it's not that we're detaching from our sense of belonging or the sense that we're going. Hopefully it's things that we are detaching from that no longer serve us well. Hopefully we're letting go of things that don't fill us up anymore, right? And then we can move towards the north node if we are ready to do so. Illuminated letting go, an illuminated release. There's a spotlight when the sun is on a planet or any place. I think it's when I see the sun conjoining the nodes, I think about how the nodes are considered shadow planets. So they're not planets, right? They're points in the sky. They are intersecting points between the sun's path and the moon's path. And when they come close, we get the eclipses there, right? So I think about this shadow. I think about things that are hiding in the dark. I think about, the things that are in the corner that we're not necessarily looking at, or the things that have been in the background that maybe we've been distracted away from. And then I see the sun illuminating them. This can be negative habits. This can be things that we need to let go of. This can be things that are holding us back. I see that energy coming through here this week. And then if we move right forward into Thursday, September 11th, with that Taurus moon, we have Mercury conjoining the south node. So just after the sun conjoins, Mercury conjoins. So all of that letting go of the south node still holds here. But instead of the sun, instead of our soul and our purpose, now it's Mercury. It's our mind, it's our thoughts, communications, perceptions. It's in the sign of Virgo, so it could be prioritizing. What do we need to let go of? What is not working here? What is working? What do I need to compartmentalize? It brings a very mental aspect into that releasing and into that letting go, and that these two planets coming across the south node here, just as we are coming off the lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces towards the north node, makes me feel like it ups that finality level that I was talking about with the full moon here. So looking at that and seeing how that is playing out here for you. Lots of releasing and lots of lunar aspects here that we have going on this week here. And then we move forward into Friday. Sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second. September 12th, moon in the sign of Taurus and then in the sign of Gemini. And we have sextiles. So Mercury and Sun are traveling very, very close to each other here. So when one of these planets makes an aspect, the other one makes the aspect just afterwards. Today we're going to talk about this sextile happening simultaneously because it essentially happens just one after another. So sextiles are helpful. They are subtle energy aspects, and they're little helpful tidbits that come our way, or little tools, resources that help us, and maybe we don't necessarily notice them because they're subtle. So maybe it's like when a day just works out really well, and then at the end of the day you're like, wow, that just flowed really, really good, and you didn't really realize it while you're in the moment because things were just flowing and you were just going here. So helpful, beneficial power and strength and capability within the sun. The sun gives us power, it gives us strength, it gives us ability, it gives us light, it gives us vision and the ability to see what is going on within the world here. It can be very empowering in many different levels when we connect to our soul, or even just during the day when you can see what's going on versus a night where you can't necessarily see what is around you here. And the same thing with Mercury. You can have these beneficial mental capabilities here. I'm seeing this as assistance coming in. So Jupiter likes to help, especially in the sign of Cancer. It likes to create a space that things can grow from. There's proliferation, there is care, and there is sport, there is comfort, there is the creation of a safe space that you can grow from, right? So thinking of, I've used this example before, but like the young child or the toddler that is happy to run off onto the playground and do something new or daring because they look back and they see their mom and dad sitting there watching them and like supporting them. So they know that they're okay. They know they're safe to go forward and do whatever the thing is here. That assistance or that support could come through some sort of knowledge or some sort of insight coming in. I'm thinking about messages of care and support because we have Mercury, who is the messenger. We have Jupiter, who brings wisdom and abundance and grows things and proliferation. And in the sign of Cancer, where Jupiter is exalted, it's very much that motherly or grandmotherly advice coming through, which it comes through very, very soft and tender, but very knowledgeable and very, very experienced. So wondering where there's this empowering mental clarity that could give us some strength and give us some ability to move forward with whatever it is that we're moving forward with. Eclipses can be very strong, powerful energy. South node activity with these conjunctions that we've had going on this week can be very powerful, strong energy too, and it can be very intense, and that doesn't always mean that it's easy. So having that support, having that understanding, having that receptivity of these feminine signs that we are looking at here, Mercury in the sign of Virgo, Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, it ups that support, it ups that sometimes a little bit more quiet and internal support that you can feel rather than you can hear, right? Or you can feel it because you hear it, maybe something kind of like that too. So these are helpful aspects coming through as these planets are moving across the South Node. And then if we move forward right into Saturday, the resets and the completions keep going because we have Mercury Cazimi at 20 degrees of Virgo. So we have the full moon lunar eclipse that we start out with, where there's this height of energy. Things start out really strong at the beginning of the week here. And then there's some releasing, there's some letting go as Mercury and Jupiter come across the South Node, but then there's a little bit of helpful support from Jupiter that is coming through here in some way. And then Mercury reaches its Cazimi point. It reaches its resetting moment and its rebirth. I'd like to point out that it's protected within its own chariot when it's in the sign of Virgo because it's in its own sign. So most planets, as they get closer to the sun, they have this moment where they are weakened or they can't quite see very well. I think about like when the sun is really bright and you have to put sunglasses on, or you have to kind of go like this to be able to see or squint, and you can't see super great because it's so bright. That's when a planet is under the beams of the sun and is getting closer to the sun. However, if that planet is within its own sign, that is off. So I see Mercury as growing in strength here, maybe even growing in clarity, and maybe even the ability to see where the shift is. Excuse me. So at the time of this Mercury Cazimi, if I go ahead and put the chart up here for you all to see. We're going to go ahead and roll it forward because it's here on Sunday. So if we move it forward to Saturday here, we have the Mercury Cazimi. It shows it here at 21 degrees. They start out together at 20, they move to 21 degrees, and I think they even almost connect pretty close to 22 degrees too. So they stick together for just a little while here as they travel together. But if we look here at this chart, we notice that the moon is in the sign of Gemini. So this almost triples up on the Mercury that we have here going on, because Mercury is Cazimi, it is resetting, it is in its own sign of Virgo, the moon is in the sign of Gemini. So I see a lot about ideas and thoughts and communications and being able to compartmentalize those things and maybe being able to find some clarity. Hopefully it's not that things are so much going on that it's a little bit confusing, because Mercury can be a little bit ambiguous. You know, Mercury is shifty, but Mercury also brings different messages coming through here. So that's where we end the week here, is with the Mercury Cazimi. So that Pisces Virgo axis within your chart and those houses where those fall are on fire this week, and they are absolutely highlighted this week here. So looking at the houses, looking at those topics, we can always do that through a reading if you want to do that. And thinking about the topics and the themes that fall across that axis. So you can look at those two signs individually, or you can look at how they interact with each other. How are they different and how are they similar here? So overall, I see that mind, body, spirit connection across the sign of Virgo, which is an earth sign. It's the sign of the harvest maiden, and then the spirit emotional connection in the sign of Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, the home sign of Jupiter. So there is that spiritual connection in that, that otherworldly piece there. Service, health, healing, understanding, organizing versus separating things and compartmentalizing versus bringing all things together, rational expression versus emotional expression. Two signs that are opposing each other. They seem very stark and very different, but they always have connections in between. So I encourage everybody to look at those connections this week. Lots going on this week. Take moments to stop, take deep breaths. This is not the week that I wanted to go without a meditation, just because I want to jump into that meditation here too, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles here, right? So thank you for watching this video with me. Thank you for walking through the week in the astrology. If you made it this far and you haven't subscribed to the channel, you might as well go ahead and do so. And I'm going to invite you to our live meditation, not this Sunday, September 7th, but next week, September 14th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I look forward to seeing you there, and I look forward to seeing you back here next week for next week's video. Take care and have a great week, everybody.